Now let's move on to a different part of accessing and giving customers the highest access to your business and specific incentives. Now let's talk about loyalty plans. So Ashley, let's take a few minutes and let's talk about some customer loyalty plans. And you've got such a wide variety of knowledge about this. So really dive in, dig deep, and tell everybody everything you know about customer loyalty incentives and plans, etc.
Okay, well, the first thing with customer incentives and loyalties is what I found a lot of merchants want to do to keep things simple is actually to just have a little simple coupon that prints out on the receipt every time that they do a transaction with a customer, so that there's a daily incentive every time that a transaction's made. And so briefly, before I get into the more advanced plans, I'd just like to show you how to do that. If we're going to the options button and we go to the setup screen, then right here under the couponing tab here, we just have a very simple, very easy place that we can issue a, like a 10% discount. So let's just actually do this, 10% discount. And we're actually going to move down to the next line here on next visit. And if you do that and just click update here, I'm just going to actually run a quick transaction. And this could be to any cash customer. That's the beauty of this. I'm actually going to set this back to cash customer. And let's run that transaction. And now we have a very simple receipt here that says 10% on the next visit. And so that's the simplest way to have some sort of customer incentive every time they come into the store.
You know, Ashley, that seems like a really simple plan. And, you know, we've been talking with everybody here about creating a points value for individual items. So let's talk about a customer loyalty incentive and or plan with establishing a points value.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of ways to get the system to track points and assess those to customers, and then there's another section on how we actually redeem those points. So first of all, just talking about how we do assess points to a customer for certain items. There's two ways to do that in the system. The more detailed way is to go into the inventory maintenance screen, and then you can scroll through each particular item that you have here, and you'll see that there's an option right here under, if the default tab is the optional info tab, and under that you'll see bonus points here. Now if we want a particular item, maybe only just a few items in our entire inventory, to track customer points and assess those to customers, then we could assign those points right here on just those few target items that are the value items in our store for the customers. Now if we want to do a more broad sweeping plan that includes all of our inventory, if we go back in here to the setup screen, and we go to the invoice settings, we have a little checkbox here called Earn Bonus Points for Dollars. Now if we assess that button, I'm going to actually do that for the purpose of our demonstration here, that's going to really assign a point for every dollar we spend. And you just need to keep in mind when you're building your incentive plans later that you do keep in mind for how much volume and revenue that you have, so that you can set the bonus points to a level that really makes sense to give something away for your business. We're going to click Update and set that, make sure that those settings are clear in our system. And what we need to do before we actually start implementing the plans, we actually go build the plans. So we're going to stay in the Management Console back here. And under the Setup screen, there is option letter C, which is Customer Loyalty. Now what happens when you come up to that screen is you actually have two different buttons that come up here that kind of confuse people sometimes. It's really simple once you understand. What we want to do is we want to build individual loyalty incentives and then add those into a larger category, which is called loyalty plans. Now, loyalty plan can actually house many different loyalty incentives, and that's kind of the way that the flow works. So the first thing we're going to do here is select a loyalty incentive. Now, right now that's blank. If we had some loyalty incentives, the drop down right here would display some of those incentives. But right now we're actually going to create one, and what we're going to do is we're going to create an incentive for a free Coke. And so right now I'm going to click Add, and we're going to type in a description for this incentive. I'm going to call it Free Coke. All right, and now the incentive type here, there are several different things that we can do. We have birthday bonus, where if you're tracking the birthday, we can give bonus, some sort of gift on their birthday. We can do frequency discounts, which are related to how many times they come in your store and do transactions. So that's one way to do it. The main one that we use most of the time, though, is the point rewards, and that really assesses a point for every dollar if we're doing it that way, and then we can give a free item away, or there's actually several different incentives, rewards available here. Below you'll see reward, and there's 4 options here. Non-inventory item, which is something that you wouldn't have in inventory that you're giving away. It's not necessarily something that's tracked in inventory. Free gift card, you can actually add value to a gift card through the incentive plan when the customer's account comes due for that. You can do an inventory item, which is what we're going to do today, or a free voucher, which is similar to a gift card, slightly different for a free item. So we're going to do the item in inventory. I'm going to select that button, and it's going to ask us for the item number. Now I'm going to scan my Coca-Cola here, add that item number, and how many for the quantity down here, we're just going to set it to 1. If you want to track cost and price, we can do that. All right, once we get all that information input, make sure you click Save, and now we have 1 item in that inventory, in that listing there for that loyalty incentive plan. Now we're going to exit out of this. What we need to do at this point is attach that loyalty item to a loyalty plan. So this time when we go into our customer loyalty screen, we want to make sure that we select loyalty plans. Now here again, as with the incentives, we can actually create different plans, and we can assess a different plan to each customer or to different types of customers if we want to do really advanced marketing of that sort. In this case, we're just going to have our new incentive plan that we create. We're going to click Add, and I'm just going to call it free items, just to differentiate between that versus just what we call the incentive itself. So we're going to create that, and it's going to ask us to add incentive. This is the place where we actually call up those individual incentives that we created earlier in the system, and there'll just be a touch button on here. And so I'm just adding that item, and there are a few options here. We want to make sure we click Accumulate Points, and we want to say exclusive on that, and I'm going to click Save. Now that prepares our customer loyalty plan so that we can begin to assess those types of loyalties to our customers. Now the next thing we need to do is we also have to attach that loyalty plan to each customer when they come into the store, so that they can actually be gaining points on the items here. So usually this will happen at the point when we're creating the customer. We'll assess a plan to them. Sometimes if you're building these retroactively, you will go back in and select customers like I'm going to do today. And we're going to select Jane Johnson here, and we're going to edit this customer. Now right here in the main tab, there's a big blue button here that says General, and there's several plans that are available in our system, and I'm going to select the free items, which is the customer loyalty plan that I have just created. You'll notice up here on the right-hand corner of the screen that it says bonus points achieved. And so later on, if we call this customer record up, it should show the amount of bonus points they have at a given time. So I'm going to make sure that I click Update so that customer is able to attach that plan properly. The next thing is that we want to see that as we're ringing up transactions for this customer, I especially recommend this when you're initially creating a plan, that you actually do a few test runs in your system to make sure you got things set up right. You might even create a dummy customer just so that you make sure that the plan is tracking the way you anticipated it to. Now in this case, I'm going to add a few items. Now keep in mind that the bonus points that I have set up here are they're tracking with every dollar that we spend. So I'm just adding a couple items to the list, make sure that I have my customer, and I'm just going to pay for this right now. All right. At this point, when I go back in, if I want to go check on this customer and see, I should be able to see at this point that they have achieved 55 points, which is equivalent to the dollar amount that we had assessed for the last ticket that they purchased.
So you see that they've achieved 55 points total. Okay? Now, Ashley, show us how to actually redeem those points and they can get their free Coke.
All right. Well, the next time that customer comes in, we're actually going to select them just like we always would for the invoice. And now you can see the customer info is here. The nice thing is that the bonus points are showing up down here in the customer info screen as well. As we go in and start adding a few items to the transaction here, we click Done. Now, whenever we click Pay, it will prompt us at that point because the system's tracking and notices that we've actually achieved the required amount of bonus points to redeem this particular reward. So we're going to go ahead and apply that to the transaction, and it's going to show the Coca-Cola item, and it's going to assess it at no charge. We're going to go ahead and pay cash for the transaction, and we're not going to print a receipt, and that's how you redeem your points.
That's great. Well, you can see that there is a huge ability for you as a business owner or manager to arrive at a place of creativity within your customer loyalty plans and customer incentives. And it's really a great way to advance your business and to really have great promotional items. So hopefully you got a really comprehensive look at how customer incentives and plans and how just to keep track of them within the system works. So Ashley, I appreciate you showing that, and we're going to move on to a couple other things.